So this is Kelly again, our fun bride Kelly. Kelly is this is a little video that I want to show that I'm pretty sure she talks about the importance of moments and what her favorite photograph from the wedding was.
When I have to think about one specific image from the wedding that I feel like captured the event and the day kind of in its fullest but most unique way, it was probably the bowling picture. I'm obsessed with that photograph. I absolutely love it. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was so natural. You can see the motion, you can feel the energy that was there at that time. And I just think it's a beautiful picture. The lighting is incredible. And it was a really big challenge to pick just one, because you had told me, you're like, you're not going to like the portraits. You're not going to want the portraits. And of course, our family was insistent that we have the portraits. And guess how many portraits have been printed or framed or any of that? 0. Those are not the things that really reflect the memory of the day. It's the action shots dancing where Aunt Pat is sliding through somebody's legs and about to show somebody some business. And it's about the picture of me about to walk down the aisle with my dad, where I am so overwhelmed and I feel this energy and this excitement and this adrenaline, and it was all encompassing. And I think I have my eyes closed and I'm kind of looking up, trying to kind of rein everything in. And when I see that picture, I go right back to that moment. I'm like right there. I get the goosebumps. I get it just talking about it. The goosebumps, the feeling. You know, I could cry talking about that picture.
So I think that's interesting to hear it from people's perspectives, you know? And so I asked them, I said, you know, by the way, Brandon is the film guy that does these things. He did not do this one. That was me. I don't want people thinking that I'm not a video guy. That's a horrible ending. But anyway, so, you know, it's like, you know, that's what I'm, you know, it's so interesting to hear them. And what I just asked a few people, what's your favorite photo? You know? And I love that bowling picture. I think it's great. But, you know, I'm like, I never would have thought that she would have been like, that's the picture that sums it up. You know, they just went bowling. They went bowling in between their ceremony and reception because they had an early ceremony. And I'm like, and I always tell my couples, I'm like, you know, there's really no reason to be driving around town for 4 hours on a photo scavenger hunt. Like, let's do some quick portraits and just go have fun with your friends. And so I set up a little light, a little flash, and I worked my butt off trying to get that thing in focus and the light to hit right and all that kind of stuff. But I'm glad I did. And that was just me just trying to make a cool picture. But it's like, you know, one of the things I do is at the end of the night, oftentimes I'm around the couple and everything, and I'll hear them talking about the day or throughout the day, and they're like, oh my God, I heard that my aunt slid through Jim's legs, you know, and they're like, are you serious? That happened? And it's like my checklist. And I'm like, I kind of get a feel for how I did off of how that goes. And I go, I got a photo of that. I got a photo of that, you know? And so there's often times when it happens where I'm like, ooh, that would have been nice. I missed that, you know? But it's like, that's how I kind of judge how good I'm doing. And it's funny, you know, the moments keep me going. You know, this is just an amazing moment that it doesn't look amazing to you guys. You know, it's not an award winner. And that's what's interesting about this is that, quite frankly, you know, the style that I shoot, I don't win a ton of awards for my pictures because they're not always visually sexy. You know, does that make sense? There's not like a whole bunch of awesome photographic techniques that are going on. And you guys know about Fearless Photographers? Yeah. So Fearless Photographers is a organization started by we and Foundation, basically. But it's really like they have contests every month, or I don't know, not every month, but quarterly, whatever. And it's mind blowing. Like the amount of images that are being produced and what they look like, it's mind blowing. Like I look at some of these and I'm like, there's no way that I could even get close to that. And I'm like, but you know what? Maybe that's just not me. I've tried really hard, and I can't do that kind of photographic. I don't want to call it trickery, but you know what I mean? Like the photographic techniques that some of these guys do. And so, but I have to just be true to myself, and I can't let that stuff kind of get into my head too much. And so sometimes it's just a straightforward, simple photo that just really means something to me. And so this was Ryan. That's his daughter. She's about 12, maybe. Anyway, the wedding was fine. The wedding was great. It was good moments, whatever. But like the reception was just kind of average, And quite honestly, like when that happens, I just get really tired and I get kind of run down. I would ask you guys if that happens to you, but you haven't been doing this long enough to get run down, But I do, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm doing this for 8 hours, 9 hours, and there's just people just regularly dancing, and I'm out there just trying to get people pictures. And then all of a sudden I look over and I see Ryan holding his daughter, and I'm like, and he's got her shoes in his hand, and I'm like, she looks like she's going home. And so I rush after that moment, and I follow them out to the car, and Grandma's waiting to take her home, and his daughter is unhappy. She does not want to leave the party. She's having a ball, but she's got to go to bed. And so he sits down and he talks to her and he kisses her hand, and see how she's just like, love that photo. Just great, great moments. So it's always important just to be thinking about that as you're shooting, right? I get so caught up in it. Like I go back out to the dance floor. I'm like, oh, that's where the action is, right? That's where everybody's dancing. That's where all that stuff's happening. And fortunately on this one, a bridesmaid came up to me and she's like, oh, Abigail's saying goodbye to her grandpa. And I kid you not, I left one of my cameras on a table and I sprinted, right? And my wife was there actually running a photo booth we used to have, and she's just like so mad at me. And I was going through these the other day to try and find the photo, and I didn't realize that some guest picked up my camera and they were taking selfies with it. But I didn't care. Like I couldn't go fast enough with both cameras. So I dropped the camera and I ran after it, and I got one frame of her saying goodbye to her grandfather, and she turns to me, she's crying, she turns to me, and because he's got Alzheimer's, she turns to me and she's just like, he's just not the same. And I'm like, there's a possibility that I could have made the very last photo of her and her grandpa together. I don't think I did, but there's a possibility of that, And so when I hear stuff like that, or I pay attention to stuff like that, then the wedding stuff is totally bogus to me. And I'm going after that kind of stuff, Like that's what matters. Again, simple little moments, that same 1,000-person wedding, this is on their way out. Just love that, right? Love that little moment in the back parking lot as they walk around the back of the church. It's just such an awesome thing. I know I'm getting tired of these stories, but I'm just trying to drive this point home, right? Dad sees his daughter, the bride, for the first time in her dress at their house, right? So I'm waiting for it. I'm anticipating it. I think mom is in the background watching. This is a bridesmaid. He cried when he saw her. And later on, the mom of his wife and the bride both said to me, even his wife said this, in all my years, I have never seen him cry. Right? And that's a flawed picture. Does anybody see the problem with this picture? Look at the composition. Like I couldn't back up anymore. It's too tight. I need to have more room. I cut the hands, I cut the arms off, whatever, But it's like I don't know if that picture means anything to them, but it means something to me. So maybe it will mean something to them eventually. And so the moment trumps everything. This was I told you I'd tell a story about that, and I think these next few things. We got a little bit of a crier over here, so hopefully you can rein it in. Sorry, I didn't know. I know, no, but I love it. And so I think, oh man, I hope this is going to work. I see something that might be tricky. So this is a story, so I shot Jennifer's wedding a long time ago, and she told me, in a meeting, she's like, well, my dad, I'm thinking my dad's going to be there, and I really hope he's going to be there because he just had like a heart attack, some sort of heart issue. And she says, the nurses told me that he said to them, my entire motivation to get through rehab is to walk my daughter down the aisle at her wedding. And I'm like, well, then I have to make that picture, don't I? I have to make that picture. Do I care about the ring bearer? Do I care about the bridesmaids coming down the aisle? If it really boils it down, do I care about that? No. And I had to break a little bit of church rules. You guys haven't been around long enough to deal with that. I'm sure you have. But I had to break some church rules to get into this position. And I did it, and I got the image. And is it amazing? No. No, it's not. There's no composition. It's just a straightforward 7200, shot the photo, and I got it, right? Anyway, a few weeks later, I was talking to her, and I was like, hey, I got that photo. And she's like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, what the hell? What do you want from me? I mean, like, God, I mean, that church lady was about to, like, chew my head off and this and that and all around, and I'm like, okay, well, I did my best. But then this is my first instance of where I'm at with this, and where I learned that this is going to matter down the road. My wife and I were at dinner one night on the plaza in Kansas City, and they were there with their 2-year-old daughter, I think. And she just came up to me, and she's like, I just need to tell you that we lost my dad this year. And she's like, that photo means the world to me now. And it's a simple, simple photograph that has nothing fancy to it at all. And she's like, because now I can show my daughter these photos and they can understand maybe what Grandpa and who he was. And to me, that's just like that's it. That's all there is to it. It's not about me. It's not about how fancy I am with a camera. It's just about me getting it done. And I like to be fancy. I asked, so Hunter and Gloria, this is Hunter and Gloria. These are more stories. I asked Hunter and Gloria the same question. I said, what's your favorite image from the wedding? And I wanted to ask them because I think they're just amazing. But they literally, their wedding was like incredible. The production on this wedding was over the top, the most amazing thing I've ever seen, right? They had the ceremony, it's a Jewish ceremony, and they had the ceremony up on a stage, and behind the stage was like this huge, this is in a place, it's on a stage of like a major theater production in Kansas City, so it's just like a big black box, and it goes up rafters all the way up. It's like huge, right? So they had this massive, I bet you that the size of that thing was like 3 times as high as this wall, right? This huge piece of cloth behind the ceremony as a backdrop. Well, behind that cloth was the band, all right? And the band, this wedding coordinator in Kansas City, her name is Ellen Bold, and she does amazing, her ideas are incredible. So the band was behind this sheer thing, right? And so as soon as he stomped the glass, in a Jewish ceremony, they released that curtain, it fell from the ceiling, and the band started up, and they went right into their first dance. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And again, Hunter and Gloria, they are just amazing people, and their love is so strong that they were able to keep up with all of that stuff as themselves. And so I asked them what their favorite image from the wedding was, and we're going to watch Hunter talk about it.
3 days after our wedding, my sister passed away, and so just this photo of her and Gloria together, you can't see it just out of the frame. They're holding hands. Just it's so special to me to have this moment kind of locked in time that I can go back and look at and see Brooke smiling, see Gloria smiling, And for me to be the cause of that is just that much more special. But really, it's not about me in that photo; it's about them and making them happy. I actually have it up on my fireplace on the mantle, and that's definitely my favorite for all those reasons.
No?
I don't remember what I was talking about. And I think to me that's kind of the beauty of it. I mean, it could have been something really appropriate, and you know, so I'm trying to think it's maybe like a knock knock joke or something. It's very kosher, but this was the I guess the subject of it doesn't matter as much to me. It's just the feeling that it gives me. Yeah. It's funny. We definitely we're not the best at taking a lot of pictures, but we're always trying to take more photos of each other and family and everybody, because it really just has kind of put a lot in perspective of, locking these memories up. And I mean, I hate to sound cliche, but you really, especially with something like this, you never know when the last time you're going to see somebody is. And to have that, locked up in a memory is something that I can look back at and see, versus just having it in my mind is huge for me.
The beginning, that his sister passed away 3 days after the wedding. Yeah, she went home, perfectly healthy young gal. She went home and she was at home in New York, and she passed away from meningitis that quickly. And I mean, all of us at the wedding had to go get tested because we didn't know, we don't know who she talked to, how it spread. She might have gotten it on the plane on the way to the wedding, who knows? And that was just, I mean, what's so interesting about it is I made some really good pictures from that wedding. And that photo was horrible. Like, the light was bad. Basically one of those things I just like walking by, and I can guarantee you in my head it was, oh, his sister, there's a picture of his sister. I just need to get people recorded, and I just like shot it real quick, and I moved on. And that really makes me angry at myself. Because I didn't maybe just pay attention to the fact that maybe I should have worked harder on that. Maybe I could have made a better photo for him of his sister, and it's such an important thing to always be thinking about. Now these are rare cases, mind you, right? But you just never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Here's a question from Hatch and Mass Collective. Are you okay when some amazing moments are out of focus? Do you still include them in the delivery?
Yeah, I'm getting better at that. I'll talk to them. Jim's back at the computer. So yes, I'm getting better at that. My friend Brooks, I talked about Brooks earlier. He has a thing that when he shoots, it's blog sharp, which means it's sharp enough for the blog. It's good enough, And I used to fight him, and I'm like, dude, a picture's in focus or it's out of focus. There's no in between, right? And I am still a stickler like that for me, but that's where I'm getting better. If the moment is that good enough, it literally trumps everything. And that's what I'm trying to get better at, as to be like, okay, is that a good moment? Yes, it is. I'm going to include it, even though it's a little out of focus, right? Completely out of focus? Probably not. But a little out of focus, yes. Because what's funny is that we are so particular, I gotta be sharp and it's gotta look perfect. Think about the photos that our clients are taking and loving. They're horrible. I walked into a client's home one time to deliver her pictures, and there's a massive, we're talking huge family portrait of them up on the wall. And shot by a professional photographer. It's 100% back focused. This is a family portrait, right? It's 100% back focused. The building is sharp as a tack behind them, and they're all out of focus. And it's like 60 inches large on their wall. I'm like, well, apparently they have no idea. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, right? But it's just, and I had a client one time, they're like, oh, I love that black and white picture. I'm like, this is back before when I did this, I'm like, yeah, that's sepia. It's brown. They didn't even, they didn't care. And I'm like, okay. I don't do sepia anymore. That was a long time ago. So yeah, good. Go ahead.
Cool. And one more. This one is from Amy H. I think this is a great question. How close is too close to the couple during the ceremony and just in general? I assume you zoom a lot with your feet.
Yes.
Is it obtrusive to be clicking away so close to guests when they're trying to capture vows, rings, all those private moments?
Again, this is the big topic we're going to talk about.
Great.
Right? I hate to keep doing that, but
day one, that's what
these people are too smart, man. They're just like getting, they're figuring it out.
And day one, we do that. So we say,
totally.
keep post, keep
watching. Exactly. I will
Stay
talk about
tuned.
this a lot, but I'll answer it really quickly. Robert Capa once said, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. So then we'll go with that. Okay? And then I'm going to talk about all that big time down the road. So the next video is Gloria explaining her favorite photo.
Okay, so my favorite photo is actually me. Of
course.
Mid-circle. My husband, my new husband, or not yet my husband, but in the Jewish tradition, you circle your fiance, your soon-to-be husband, 7 times, and it's just very symbolic of your lives together and moving forward in the past and the future and how you're bound together. And I just love that photo. I just think it's beautiful, and you get to see the whole dress, and you get to see his whole, everything that he's wearing as well, and you get to see the flowers. But also my 2 older sisters that were his sisters are going to be new to me, and they're looking over us, and I just think it's a really beautiful picture, and I love it. And his sister, like you said, passed away very shortly after our wedding, and I just think that's really symbolic. I'm sorry to cry, but I just love it. I just love that picture, and nothing can give me her back, but I can always remember her, and that's priceless. It's just amazing. It's an amazing gift that somebody could give me that shot, because I'll never have that again. And it's not something that I saw. I was only looking at him. You can see that in the picture. And to be able to see them looking, smiling on us was just really beautiful. So I love that picture, obviously. And I'm so happy it's part of our collection.
It's just, that's what keeps me going through this stuff, is knowing that eventually, this stuff's gonna change its meaning and change what it, the matter, like how much they matter. And, I think that's just so important to also think about is, it's like, again, why? Just whenever you're doing something, right? Whenever even, and I don't even care if you want to go in and you want to be like, all right, we are going to control this, we're going to stage it, and we're going to make it look amazing, right? Just ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Why am I making this picture? Why did I just ask them to jump in the air or run or whatever, right? And just think about it and really question it, because you got to think about what the end result is. And the end result is not 6 weeks from now when they see their pictures. Right? The end result is going to be 30 years from now when they see their pictures. And so I always tell my clients, I'm like, my goal is I don't want your kids making fun of your wedding photos. It's as simple as it is, right? Because if you do all of these things that are trend driven and that are now, I fear that that's going to happen. I fear that it's not going to make sense, You can think about documentary photographs, like historical documentary photographs. The sailor, right, in Times Square, dipping that, have we all seen that photo? Right? It's been made into like every It's on like every mug, whatever, right? So, in theory, it's no different than the picture I showed you earlier with my fisheye dip picture, is it? Right? You're like, yes, it is, because that's a good photo and yours sucks. Is that what you're thinking? No, but it's like it is no different. It's like it's somebody dipping somebody in front of a building, right? But the reason that photo is okay is because it's a real moment, right? Documentary photographs, in my opinion, can stand the test of time, right? It doesn't matter what clothes they're wearing. It doesn't matter what cars are in the background, right? It's a feeling, and humans have not changed since the beginning of humans in how and what makes humans tick, right? So we got to tap into that and just show that and not get too hung up on the fact that we just got the greatest, newest lens that we want to do something cool with. That's where I come from, right? Take that how you want, but that's the way I approach this kind of stuff. So we're going to transition here pretty soon.
Yeah, so Susan wants to know if you cry at weddings.
No. Nope. I don't think I have.
Getting the job done.
Yeah, it's like, pretty sure I'll cry at my son's weddings, as is evidence of this morning.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I feel it. I can feel it in my chest when it's a great moment that I'm witnessing. But the issue is that I have a job to do, right? Exactly what you said. I had a gal that I was. She used to work with us, and I was like, I was looking at some of her work and early on, and she was my first assistant. She's a really, really, really great photographer. Her name is Becca Spears, and she worked with us for a while, and now she's doing some stuff on her own. But I remember like sitting there talking with her one day, and she's like, she would come back from a wedding, and she's like, "Oh my God, this was an amazing moment. I was crying behind the camera. It was incredible." I'm like, "Just let me see the photo. Let me see the photo." And she pulled it up, and this has happened to me so many times, even on my own images, and I'm sure some of yours and everybody else out there, is you pull it back up 2 days later, and you're like, doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like it felt to be there. And I said, and so we were trying to figure out why, And that's when we started really talking about a discussion about shooting with your head and your heart and how to make the proper balance between the two. And so she was shooting with her heart early on very heavily, and I would shoot with my head. And I needed to shoot more with my heart, and I thought that she needed to shoot more with her head. Because you need to balance that. Your heart's feeling the moment, but then you got to use all of your tools available to you to make it feel like that. So therefore, I don't have time to cry. I gotta get cranking,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Another question, and this kind of has to do with the Times Square photo and the icon-esque value of that photograph. So Jillian Gangle wants to know, I've noticed that you have a lot of black and white photos. Do you find black and white is more timeless, or is this just a personal preference? And also, do your clients prefer color black and white? Are we going to talk about that? Did I just jump on another thing we're going to talk about, or is this a good time?
I don't know if I am going to talk about
Oh, great. Let's talk about
it.
it.
I might talk about it again.
Yeah. Do you think in black and white? I know a lot of photojournalists,
Good
you
guy,
know
no.
what I mean?
I'm not that good.
Yeah.
And I mean, quite frankly, so here's something that's gonna just like blow up the chat rooms, I'm sure. I just started shooting raw 2 months ago. Right, I just like, everybody's minds are blown. I shot on Thursday, I shot JPEG again. I prefer JPEG, quite frankly. For many reasons, but I'm an old guy. I don't like new tricks, I guess, But so therefore, black and white saves me a lot. Is what I'm trying to say. So pretty much everything I've showed you has been shot on JPEG, and I'm not gonna get into a big discussion about it. I've been having this discussion for 10 years. Everybody I know has been like, "Dude, you're an idiot." Blah 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 blah. And I finally believed a lot of these guys that are good friends of mine, and I started shooting raw. And thank God, there's a couple moments in the last few months I'm losing my edge that I would have blown if I didn't have it. But so I do black and white a lot of times when like the quality is not great, or when the lighting is horrible, and I'm shooting in a lot of horrible light. So therefore, I don't want, bottom line is I don't want the color to detract from the moment, right? And it's really amazing how I can have like two photos, or no, I'm sorry, one photo up, and I can have clients looking at the photo, and or even just, I recommend you guys trying this and everybody out there trying this. Take a photo. In Photoshop, just go to grayscale where you can just quickly undo it, and it just goes back and forth from black and white to color, and just look away from the photograph and then look back at the photograph and then change it and see how your eye automatically moves around the picture, right? So in black and white, your eye 100% every time lands on the face, every time. But in color, sometimes it's harder to land on the face because your eye is being drawn to different things that are color that are pulling it, right? And what's interesting is I learned from Dave Getzman. He's an amazing shooter. He shoots with the Chrismans. He's incredible. He's a really smart guy too. And he did a whole thing one time at a speech saying how it's proven that when humans look at pictures, they automatically search for the human in the picture, like immediately. Like no matter if it's a landscape picture, your eyes are gonna search for the person. And when there's no people, then they're like, oh, that's a cute tree, right? And so it's the same thing with black and white to color. I think your eye shifts. So basically, a lot of times I'm just doing it for is the color distracting, or is the light just kind of like a crappy color? Does that make sense? And I don't let the clients choose.